the day with a lot of activities to make us feel busy, but they're not necessarily revenue-generating activities, and that's what Michael's here to help us with today, is to let's identify some of these tasks that we really shouldn't be doing, and even if we're paying someone to do it, it really doesn't matter where you are in your business, there are other things you absolutely should be doing in your business, and that's what we're going to help you guys identify, and then give you some resources for, how do you get someone to tackle some of these tasks for you. So, Michael, thanks for being here, and thank you everyone for being here today, and I'm going to hand it over to you if that's okay.
Right on. Well, thank you so much, Tom. I appreciate that. And everyone, I'm very thankful that Tom has made this happen for us today. I appreciate all of you taking your time today. I know that every one of us lead very busy lives, and I know you've probably got a lot of things that are pulling at you and wanting your time each and every day, and the fact that you took the time out to work on your business today and to really find ways to create more efficiencies in your business means a lot to me, and I want you to know that I'm going to honor that by really packing today with a lot of content. This is not going to be a pitch fest. I'm not going to be selling anything today. In fact, we're going to take that a step further, and we're actually going to be giving you the opportunity to test drive a virtual assistant absolutely free just because you're a part of Tom's group. And so I want to get that out of the way right away, because I don't want you feeling like you're about to be sold, because that's not what's going to happen. What's going to happen is you're going to learn today a lot about virtual assistants, about some things they can do. I'm going to give you each the opportunity to ask as many questions as you'd like, and we're going to make sure that is taken care of. And oh, look at that! I just got the notice, Tom, that we have reached capacity on our webinar today. Look at that! So we're going to see if we can't open up that bandwidth a little bit. For those that were not able to get on today, we may have to do another webinar for them. But yeah, we are full at capacity. That's great stuff. So hang tight.
I'm telling you, it's an exciting. People were really responding to this. This is something that again, it's one of those people want it and need it. So just a great combination, obviously, by all these people showing up. So
yeah,
that's fantastic.
All right, I'm going to send a text message right here and see if we can't open up a little bit more volume on the webinar here. So just give me 2 seconds. We'll send this off, see if it works. Okay, perfect. All right, that's been sent. We're going to see if we can't open up a little bit of bandwidth for some more folks. For those that are not able to, let's see. Yeah, okay, so perfect. We've got that taken care of. All right, well, good. Well, let's go ahead and jump right into our content today. Let's talk first about what is a virtual assistant. So the key here is a virtual assistant is strictly defined as anyone who performs work for you from a location other than your own. This is really, really important. Understand this. It could be somebody next door to you. It could be somebody across the street from you. It could be somebody in a completely different location. But ultimately, anyone who performs work from you from a location other than your own is considered a virtual assistant. And this could mean any type of work also. It doesn't have to be just executive assistant type tasks. It could be anything from data entry to web development and design to literally anything you can imagine that can be done remotely. So let's talk about what are we going to talk about today. I'm going to show you why top businesses hire virtual assistants and why you should too. I'm going to hopefully change your perception of virtual assistants forever. A big part of this is there's this perception out there that virtual assistants can only do low-level tasks like data entry and those types of things. The fact of the matter is virtual assistants can do literally anything you can imagine. They can do things like web design and development. They can do bookkeeping. They can do telemarketing. There's so many things, graphics design. And we're going to talk about lots of different things that virtual assistants can do throughout the webinar today. And so I just want you to be prepared, and I want you to be very, very open-minded today about what can a virtual assistant do. Also, throughout the webinar today, I would like you to do me a favor. I would like you to, in your chat box or in your questions box, type in anything that you think, gosh, could a virtual assistant do this? I want you to try and stump me today. I want you to really think outside the box. and ask yourself, what are some of the creative things virtual assistants could be doing? And we're gonna see if we can't answer as many of those as possible throughout the webinar today. All right, we're going to talk about how to find the right virtual assistant. And the answer to that is not only, hiring a virtual assistant headhunter like me. I'm going to actually show you today how you can do it yourself. So maybe you prefer to do the interviewing process and the finding, the vetting, and the testing and all that kind of stuff on your own to save some dollars. Absolutely, I'm going to show you how you can do that if that's the route you'd prefer to go. For those of you that would like to hire someone to do that for you, I'll show you how we work and how we can do that for you and how others like us can maybe do that for you as well. So we'll talk about how to know when and if you're ready for a virtual assistant. Now, folks, this is important. Not everyone's ready for a virtual assistant right now. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Even if you're not ready just yet, let's still get connected. Let's still talk. Let's still communicate with one another so that when you are ready, it's an easy transition. And even if you're not ready for a VA just yet, the information you're going to get from today is going to be very helpful because it's also going to be enlightening to you as to what are the things that are happening in your business and how can you make some of those things more efficient. So we'll talk a lot about that as well. And again, as I mentioned, I'm going to tell you how you can test drive a virtual assistant absolutely for free. And by the way, for those of you that already know that you would like to test drive a virtual assistant and make sure that they're the right fit for you long term, jump on va.tombufordmarketing.com. Again, that's va.tombufordmarketing.com. And if you'll jump on that page, you'll see that there's a little form on there that you can fill out. Jump on that form, fill it out. And you will be contacted by someone from my team who will set you up with your free test drive. All right, so let's talk about this. I'm going to share with you how I went from being the Lone Ranger in my own, kind of running my own business as an entrepreneur to becoming a world-class team builder, and more importantly, how you can too. And maybe your goal is not to build a gigantic team, but frankly, folks, if you're going to leverage your time and if you're going to gain control and get freedom of your time so that you can do the things that you really enjoy in life, you're going to have to build a team to help you out. And building a team, there's a process for that. And whether it's just hiring one assistant or maybe you're growing a 100-person team or more, the same principles apply. And so we're going to talk about those. So here's how it worked for me. I always tell people I'm a recovering real estate agent, and it's a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but fact of the matter is I sold real estate for over 20 years, and it went great. But in the first 2 years, my parents were recommending that I get a job at McDonald's, and I got to tell you, the sad but true fact is that they were telling me to do this because I would probably make more money working for McDonald's than I was selling real estate, and they were right, and that was hard for me to accept. And in fact, I didn't want to accept that, so I did what you're doing right now. I found someone who knew about what I wanted to accomplish more than I did, and I went to a seminar held by a real estate agent guru. And this guy said something at that seminar that really hit me like a ton of bricks. And I want you all to write this down. This is very, very important. He said to the audience, he says, if you don't have an assistant, you are one. Tom, have you ever heard anyone say anything similar to that? That if you don't have an assistant, you are one?
Yeah, I think that's, I've never heard it put quite so succinctly, which is fantastic, but it really is, that's just, I think if anyone, people are working in their business with so many things, again, doing things that they probably shouldn't be doing, and that's just so true in your business. So, yeah, I love that.
Yeah, and people really, when you think about this, you start to understand that, gosh, if I don't have an assistant, I'm doing things in my business that really should be done by an assistant. And the thing that most people don't realize is that your time has value. And that's one thing I want you to take a step back and really think about. Your time has value, and you need to understand the value of your time. I'll give you an example. I guarantee Tom's time is worth hundreds of dollars per hour, if not thousands of dollars per hour. And so for him to even take an hour out of his day to be on a webinar like this, that's a big deal financially for him, right? Well, your time has value too, and so you want to make sure that if there's things that someone could be doing at a rate that's less than what you would bill out at, assign those things off to somebody else so that you can focus your time on dollar-generating activities that are higher dollar-generating activities. Well, when this guy mentioned this in this seminar, like I said, it hit me like a ton of bricks, and I went home and I immediately began laying plans to hire my first assistant, and that's exactly what I did. I went out and I hired my first assistant, and I got to tell you, I was scared to death. I was nervous because I had no idea how I was going to pay this girl. I knew that I needed the help. I knew she was the right person for the job, but I was going to have to commit to paying her more than I had ever made in a single year in my life to that point. And let me tell you, if I didn't have credit cards to fall back on, I never could have done this. I was that on the edge with it from a financial standpoint. Pretty crazy. But I got to tell you, it went really, really well. I hired her, and she later became my wife, which I always tell people is the day I went to work for her. So, and those of you that are married, by the way, probably know the rule that we live by in our home. And Tom, I don't know how it works at your place, but at our home, any man that says he wears the pants in the family probably lies about other things too. So we definitely try and keep it real that way. Well, anyway, so Tara and I grew the business to about 44 employees over the next 20 years, doing very, very well. You know, and it was great from the standpoint that, yeah, we were making all this money. You know, we were bringing in about $450,000 a month in gross income, which sounds like a lot of money, and it is. Don't get me wrong, it is a lot of money. But the flip side of that is we were spending a ton of money too. Our payroll. Hey, let me ask you this, Tom. What do you think? Just a rough guess. What do you think our payroll was for those 44 employees?
Oh man, 44 employees. I'm going to just throw out, at least 200,000, I would guess.
Yeah, actually, we were, and if we were paying what most people pay for their employees, that's probably right. That probably would be right. We'd probably have been closer to the 200,000 mark. But I got to tell you, we were actually fairly lucky. We were at about $125,000 a month in payroll. Now, that's a lot of payroll to make. So every day I got up, I knew that month I had to come up with $125,000 just to pay my employees. Now, that's kind of scary.
Hey, my 200,000, that was an annual guess.
Oh, is that annual? Oh.
That was a guess at an annual.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Holy cow. So over $1 million a year.
Yeah, it was well over. Well, in fact, I'll just do the math real quick. 125,000 times 12. Yeah, we were at $1.5 million per year just on payroll. That's not including all the payroll taxes, the Social Security, the Medicare, which adds another 50% to it. So we were well over $2 million to have employees, for the privilege of having employees. And I got to tell you, that was daunting when I stood back and realized, what I had to come up with every month. Well, I started asking all my buddies around the country that had big offices, and how are you doing it? What's working for you? Because I gotta lower my payroll. I mean, it was the single biggest expense I have in my business, and I thought, man, I gotta lower this payroll, and yet I still need to get the work done. And so they started suggesting these virtual assistants to me. Well, this wasn't that many years ago for me. This was only about 6 years ago for me, and I got to tell you, I was nervous. As I heard more about these virtual assistants, I started gaining more questions than answers. I had no idea how was I going to find them, how was I going to hire them, how would I assign tasks to them, how would I hold them accountable. I mean, how am I going to know they're even working? I have a hard enough time knowing that my local employees that are sitting right here in the office with me are working. How in the heck am I going to know if a virtual employee is actually working or not? And ultimately, I had more questions than answers, and I didn't even know how I was going to send money to them when it came time for payday. I mean, so here were all these questions I had to figure out, and ultimately, I got to tell you, I bit the bullet, and I went out and almost hoping that I could, that it would fail, so I could go back and tell my friends, see, I told you it wouldn't work. I went out and I reluctantly hired my first VA, but I got to tell you, almost to my chagrin, it worked out really, really well, and I was almost disappointed because I kind of did. I wanted to be able to tell those guys, that can't work and that won't work, but it did. It worked really well, and this VA that we brought on our team turned out to be a huge asset. I actually hired this person to work for one of my other assistants. They did a great job working for her. And so great, in fact, that my wife and my office manager both came to me and said, hey, we want a virtual assistant now too. Well, all right, so I went out and I hired 2 more. And I got to tell you, and by the way, do me a favor, just raise your hand. If you're on the webinar right now, I just want to kind of take a little straw poll here. How many of you, by a show of hands, have ever hired an employee before? I'm curious as to roughly how many people we have that have ever hired an employee. I got to tell you that even more importantly, how many of you have fired an employee before? Because out of those first 3 people that I hired, 2 of them were fantastic. One of them was terrible. And I got to tell you, this made me very nervous because, and Tom, have you ever had to fire someone before?
Yeah, unfortunately, back in the day, I used to work for my dad's company. He was a contractor, so I, as his son and foreman for a lot of the work going through college, I got the task of doing hiring and firing, and it was probably one of the worst things that I've ever had to do in business is actually sitting down and telling somebody that you're not going to be able to use them anymore. I mean, it's just a tough thing. Even if they've done something wrong, you still feel for them. They have a family. They've got things going on. So, yeah, it's not fun to do at all.
It can be very traumatic. It really can be. And I got to tell you, this was one of the big challenging pieces of it is, you know, if they go to the state all of a sudden and they say they were wrongfully terminated, or if they, you know, say, hey, I worked all this overtime that I didn't actually work, you know, and a lot of times they do that kind of stuff, you know, where they may not have actually worked the overtime, but they say they did, and then the state sides with them, and now you got to pay them for it. And then there's the whole ripple effect through your company. Yeah, I mean, what happens when you fire somebody? All of a sudden, everybody in the company starts talking, oh, Michael's such a bad guy. I can't believe he fired Susie. She's got, you know, 2 kids. She's a single mom. I can't believe he would do that to her. You know, little do they know that Susie's been stealing from us, and that's why we let her go. They don't think about that, and they don't care about that, and it's none of their business. But at the end of the day, firing people can be traumatic. Well, I got to tell you, when I had to let this virtual assistant go out of the one out of those first 3 that was not a great one, I sent an email off and I said, your services are no longer required. We'll forward you your last payment. And that was the last I heard from them. We changed the passwords and all that. That was the last I heard from them. Nobody in the office was talking about it. Nobody cared. Nobody threw a fit about it. I didn't have the state, you know, coming and beating down my door telling me what a bad employer I was because I let this person go. It literally, I felt like Donald Trump on The Apprentice. Like, you're fired. I mean, it was, as callous as that sounds, it was literally that easy. And I was able to replace that person with somebody who truly wanted the job, who really did work hard at it and did a fantastic job. So, you know, just what a difference it made. And so I learned very quickly that not only was having virtual assistants more cost effective and caused a lot less drama in my office, but it was also easier to let go of a virtual assistant than it was somebody locally. And so I started looking around the office and I started saying, I wonder what other positions we can take virtual. And I got to tell you, I had 44 employees in an office together. And man, I got to tell you, I literally took that entire office virtual. Got rid of literally every single local employee, took the whole thing virtual, and I went from spending $125,000 a month to just $40,000 a month using virtual assistants. Now, that's a big deal. That's 68% savings on my payroll, or $85,000 a month that I didn't have to go earn now. I just literally got an extra $85,000 a month in my pocket. I had it was amazing how quickly that turned the financial tables for us and really, you know, just catapulted us into extreme profitability. Now, some of you are thinking, well, gosh, Michael, I'm not going to build a 44-person team. Well, that's okay. Even if you're not going to build a 44-person team, you still have a team. Whether you're a team of 1, a team of 2, a team of 10, doesn't matter how big your team is. You're a team, and you need to be thinking like a business owner, and you need to be watching your dollars like a business owner. Tom, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, you know, I'm curious to know, too, what that saved you also in not just the payroll, but now you're not having to house or have a building for these 44 people. So, and that certainly frees up where you're able to place your business.
Oh man, it's funny you mentioned that. It's almost like you've seen my presentation before, because that's where the savings began.
All right.
I love it. You're so on the same track. And I got to tell you, Tom, when I first started hiring virtual assistants, I wasn't even thinking about all that other stuff. I was just thinking about, I'm tired of spending 125 grand a month on payroll. I got to find a better way. And you're right. I saved the wages and the salaries, the employment taxes, no more L&I, workers' comp, no more Social Security, Medicare. I didn't have to pay any of that stuff. And I got rid of the office chit-chat. Now, let me tell you, chit-chat costs you money. I mean, it is expensive, as is office drama. I got rid of all of that, and that was just the savings on employees. And as you mentioned, Tom, now I'm saving on my office expenses as well. Because I went entirely virtual, I got rid of the actual office, so I had no more long-term leases, no more triple nets, no more insurance, no more telephone, no more internet, no more office equipment, no more copiers, computers, desks, chairs, cubicles, plants, toilet paper, light bulbs. It all went away.
Yep.
I mean, you want to talk about savings. It was insane. I mean, literally my number one and my number two expense, my number one expense, which was payroll, was dramatically reduced. My number two expense, which was facilities and infrastructure, completely went away. And so from a profitability standpoint, I mean, right now I work from home. And I'm sharing this with you because this is the lifestyle that I prefer. Now, maybe you want to work in an office. Maybe you want to go get an executive suite so that you can go work outside your home somewhere, and that's fine if that's how you are wired and that's what you would like to do. For me personally, I love working from my home. I get up, I work a 3-day week. I work from 6 in the morning till 5:30 at night, 3 days a week in my home office, and I have this beautiful view out the window. And guess what? I don't have to commute, which means I can work a couple extra hours a day and get more done, which means because I'm able to do that, now I can take my Thursdays and Fridays off during the summertime so I can spend 4 days a week with my family. Now, let me tell you, absolutely a game changer for me. And, from an income standpoint, no worries. I actually, from a profitability standpoint, I'm able to make greater profit with less gross income now than ever before because I took it all virtual. I mean, just huge. Gigantic stuff. So anything on that, Tom, before I move forward?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to stress, too, that, a lot of people listening here are probably coaches, consultants, speakers, and I think the lifestyle, that's part of the reason that people got into this business, and that is to be able to work from anywhere, to work from home, or to travel more, and still be productive, still get out there, still make a difference in the community and their market. And, one of the biggest reliefs I ever had, like this big weight lifted off my shoulders, was when I was starting out and I hired my first VA. And I really, at the time, I wasn't bringing in a lot of money in the business, but I realized there are things that I'm spending time on that I just don't need to be doing. And I didn't want to look at hiring somebody locally. And this is, someone who was up in the Northeast, and she did a great job getting me, first kind of just untethered to some of these other activities. And it really is amazing when you find that, man, I don't have to spend time doing that anymore. I have somebody that I can trust who does it quicker, does it more efficiently, is better at it, and now I can focus on doing what I should be doing, and that's finding clients in my business. And that's the number one objective. So yeah, it's just a great relief when you do finally take that first step.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Here's what I would recommend, by the way. For those of you that are thinking on that same line, that the number one thing you can do in your business is lead generation, bringing in more business. I'd like you to take a note. Grab a piece of paper, write this down. I've always believed that the three most important things in any business, I don't care what business you're in, the three most important activities that must be done on a daily basis are: 1, lead generation; 2, lead follow-up; and 3, lead conversion. And regardless of what business you're in, you look at any successful business worldwide, they have mastered those 3 things. Without leads, you don't have a business. There's no customer to serve. Is customer service important? Absolutely. But in order to have a customer, you have to accomplish these 3 things first. And so lead generation, lead follow-up, and lead conversion. Even a lot of people that are really good at lead generation sometimes drop the ball on lead follow-up. And those that are even good at both of those sometimes have trouble with conversion. But I will tell you this. The first 2, as you grow your business, particularly as speakers and coaches, as you grow your business, Eventually, you can even have an assistant, oftentimes a virtual assistant, handling lead generation and lead follow-up for you. For example, in my business, all of my lead generation and lead follow-up is done by my assistants. Now, currently, all of our lead generation is done via affiliate marketing. So we don't actually do any marketing in our business. It's all done through webinars, with our affiliate partners and referrals from our affiliate partners and that sort of thing, which has been great. Once we get those leads in, then my virtual assistants do all the follow-up. So they call them, they set up appointments so that literally every single day, all I do, I show up in my office at 6 in the morning. I'm on the West Coast. And so at 6 in the morning, guess what I'm doing? I'm talking to my East Coast clients. And I've got literally every half hour, on the half hour, I have another person waiting to talk to me at a scheduled time that my VA has set up for me so that my time is 100% efficient. And I literally do at least 20 calls every single day. So I can get 60 calls with potential clients done literally in a 3-day week, which is far more efficient than I could have ever been in a 5-day week working on my own. And so now I get both the income and the lifestyle, which is so huge. I mean, I'm a real believer, and you'll hear me talk about that over and over and over again, that, the balance in your life is so, so important. And I know a lot of you are coaching your clients on that very thing. So, all right, let's talk really quick about VAs and about what they're like. They come in all shapes and sizes. Their backgrounds vary, their skill sets vary, their pay ranges vary. You've got the Walmart VAs out there, and you got the Nordstrom's VAs out there, and everything in between. And so, there's a big difference in price when you're hiring globally versus just hiring in the U.S. And certainly there's opportunities for both. You do need to be aware that hiring in the U.S. will be more expensive than hiring globally. And so you've got to decide, where your priorities are there. Also, one thing that you want to take into consideration when hiring virtual assistants is, are you going to hire long-term versus project? Now, long-term does not mean full-time. Long-term just means you're going to hire someone, and maybe they're only going to work for you 2.5 hours a week or 10 hours a week or 20 hours a week or whatever it is, but you're going to have them working for you on a very regular basis over a longer period of time. When you do that, when you make that kind of commitment to someone, you get a better price point than you do when you're just hiring someone for a single project. Makes sense, right? And so you want to look at things and understand that there's a difference between project work and long-term work. Give you an example. If I just want somebody to create a logo for me, that's not a long-term job. That's not something I need to hire a VA on a long-term basis for. I'll jump on a website like a 99 Designs or an Elance or all these different places I can jump out to just see if I can find someone just to do that logo for me. But if I want someone who's going to be on a long-term basis for me, someone who's going to get to know my business, someone who's going to get to know my clients, someone who's going to become my right hand, follow up with people, schedule appointments for me, check my emails and my voicemail, do all that kind of stuff, I'm looking for somebody on a longer-term basis. Now, that's good from a lot of standpoints, one of which is because they've gotten to know my business, they become more efficient. The longer I have them on my team, the more efficient they become. And they also get to know my clients. And so my clients start to appreciate working with them, and they enjoy working with them, which helps me back out of that picture a little bit because I don't need to answer every little question. There are certainly questions that my virtual assistant can answer for me, which does two things. One, it frees up my time, gives me that balance in my life that I'm looking for. Two, it also gives my client greater customer satisfaction and a better customer experience because they're getting answers to their questions much more quickly. So lots of things to be thinking about. Quality versus price. This is probably the single biggest quandary that most people are placed in when they first think about hiring anyone, whether it's local or abroad, virtual or in office, regardless. Quality versus price is very important. Now, let me tell you my approach to hiring, and you think about what yours is going to be. There are things where price is the only consideration and where quality really doesn't matter. My business is not one of them. I want quality in my business. I want people that work for me to care about my clients. I want them to care about my business. And so I pay a little bit more for that than I would if I was just going out and looking for the cheapest VA that I could find. And so you really want to address, give me an example. Do I want someone that has a really heavy accent that's hard for people to understand? Or am I looking for someone who speaks perfect English that is not only easy to understand but just has this amazing grasp of the English language? Or maybe it's something in between. Again, you don't have to make this decision right now, but I want you to be thinking about these things as you enter into this process of hiring a virtual assistant. Whether it's your first one or your 10th one, understand you can get both ends of the spectrum. We hire people from England, from South Africa, from all over the world, from the Philippines, Central and South America, you name it. And you can get a very tremendously varying range of skills and quality in all those different areas. You just have to know ahead of time what it is you're looking for. So what are some things a virtual assistant can do? Now, here's what I'd like you to do. Remember, type into your questions box. I would love to see some things that you think virtual assistants can do, or some things you'd like to know if they can do. I'll give you an example. Jason is asking, can they do ghostwriting for ebooks or even full-length books? And the answer, Jason, is absolutely. In fact, we have lots of ghostwriters that we've placed with different clients here over the years, and particularly recently we've been placing a lot of ghostwriters. Updating websites, yes, absolutely. That's from Holly. Website design, yes, Susan, absolutely. Website design is a very common use for virtual assistants. Here's some other ones. Anything. First of all, think about this. Remember, anything that doesn't require physical presence in your office. So they're not going to come and sweep your office floor, right? But hopefully, if you take your company completely virtual, you don't have an office floor that needs to be swept, right? So anything that doesn't require physical presence in your office. Give you an example. A lot of real estate agents and real estate investors use them for listing and transaction coordinators. Bookkeepers, very, very popular. In the United States, Tom, what do you think you would spend on on a U.S.-based bookkeeper for a really good one?
Oh, it's got to be, at least $50 an hour?
Yep, that's the average. On the very low end, I'm hearing $25 an hour. On the high end, I'm hearing $65 an hour. But you're right, about $35 to $50 is pretty common for a bookkeeper in the U.S. Would it surprise you if I told you that my bookkeeper is out of the Philippines? She's one of the best bookkeepers I've ever had, and she's $9 an hour.
Wow.
She's phenomenal.
Wow.
Handles all my QuickBooks, and here's the first thing people are going to think. Well, how in the heck would I use a bookkeeper overseas? How are they going to manage my books? Well, first of all, QuickBooks is online, right? And we use QuickBooks, and most people nowadays do. And so all that's done online anyway. And so what my wife does, my wife will gather up all our bills for the month and all our receipts and that sort of thing, and she'll just scan them in and email them over to our bookkeeper. And the bookkeeper handles it all, does all the reconciliations and all that stuff in QuickBooks. And then she'll send Tara an email. She'll say, Tara, or a Skype message is usually how she does it. And she'll say, Tara, run over to the printer, stick the checks in the printer, and hit print. So my wife grabs the checks out of her drawer, sticks them in the printer, hits the print button, and guess what? Out pops all my checks, ready to go, all now. And so Tara then brings the checks to me, I sign them, and we're done. It's that easy. And oh my gosh, my books have never been more up to date. I can tell you, literally every 2 weeks, usually every week, but at a bare minimum every 2 weeks, I'm looking at my up-to-date, accurate profit and loss statement. Let me tell you, if all a virtual assistant did for you was allow you to analyze your P&L on a weekly or biweekly basis, how much more efficient would your business be? How much more would you save? How much more would you be able to do with your money than what you're doing right now?
Yeah,
it's huge.
For $9 an hour, that's incredible.
Oh, for $9 an hour. Oh, and get this. For $11 an hour, you can get a bookkeeper that can not only do your books, but when you have payment issues with clients, they can call your clients up and resolve your payment issues.
Wow.
Oh, it's phenomenal. I mean, how about that? How great would it be not to have a bunch of money sitting in AR in your accounts receivable anymore?
Yeah.
I mean, anybody in the info marketing business has experienced someone whose credit card declined. And the last thing you want to be doing as their guru, as their friend, as the good person that they're contacting, you want to be the nice guy, right? And so you don't want to be calling them up to say, hey, by the way, your credit card declined. I mean, that's uncomfortable, right? So
yeah, not to mention, that's one of those things that, like for me, getting into that, I know how to set things up in my shopping cart on just kind of on the surface. But when it gets into the merchant level, that kind of stuff, man, I mean, my VA is the one that handles that. So anytime, I just think from an ease standpoint and making sure that things get done correctly. I never handle anything like that, declines payments or anything. That immediately, my VA is notified. She handles it. She does a much better job than I would anyway. She's patient. She doesn't take it personally. There's a big difference when your emotions aren't involved, and I don't think people need to get involved in that in their business.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And that allows you to maintain that positive relationship with your client and yet still collect on those accounts receivable in a way that is professional and not offensive to your client. So
Yes.
very important stuff. All right, receptionists, very common. Telemarketers and appointment setters. Let me tell you, if you want to take your business, especially as a coach, a trainer, and a speaker, if you want to take your business to the next level, a telemarketer and appointment setter is absolutely a game changer. This is what I have Marion on my team. I've actually got 3 people on my team that are appointment setters for myself and for my relationship managers or my sales team. And that's all they do all day long is they call people and set up appointments for them to talk with one of us. And I'll tell you, working on her own, my appointment setter can set up calls with warm leads. We're not talking now. We can do this with cold calling too. You can hire. The difference between a telemarketer and an appointment setter is that a telemarketer is calling cold leads and an appointment setter is calling people that are warmer leads that actually want to talk to you already. And so with an appointment setter, if they're calling a warm lead, they can literally, on my team, my experience has been that they set 9 to 12 appointments a day for me. Sometimes as high as 18 appointments in a day they can set for me. Now, I've taken it to the next level, and I actually use what's called a predictive dialer, which is a computer software that actually integrates. I use Infusionsoft, and my predictive dialer that I use integrates with Infusionsoft, and it automatically dials 3 different people at the same time. And if it gets a voicemail, it leaves a message that we've recorded ahead of time on that voicemail. And if it gets a live person, it puts my appointment setter, Marion, on the line with that person live so she can set appointments. So what it's done is it's taken her from being able to call about 100 to 125 people a day to now she's able to call literally over 700 people every single day she can call in an effort to set those appointments. And my gosh, I was able to eliminate an entire staff position by automating that process and taking it to the next level. And man, let me tell you, when you have someone calling 700 people a day on your behalf, if your business doesn't grow, you have a bigger problem than needing staffing.
Yeah.
You got to figure out where the breakdown in your system is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Huge stuff. All right, social search engine optimization, blogging, social media, website design and development, client care coordinator, all of these great things to use a virtual assistant for. Another very common one is research. I actually have a client who puts on huge events. Their events are regularly attended by anywhere from, and you're going to probably not believe me when I say this, but literally 5,000 to 6,000 attendees at their events each year. At one event, they'll actually have like George Bush or Bill Clinton or some big huge heavy hitter speakers come in and speak. And long story short, this client wanted to know about aroma marketing, and what he meant by this was he'd heard that there was a way to pipe in different smells in the room during your event. And he wanted to know how you could do this to affect a different atmosphere, whether it was a relaxed atmosphere or a buying atmosphere or whatever. For example, Tom, if I push lavender into a room, what's that going to do to the people in the room?
I should probably calm them down, right?
Calm them down, maybe put them to sleep even. Yeah, I mean it's gonna get them really really calm. Now, if I pipe in the smell of fresh baked chocolate chip cookies into the room, that's going to create a very different atmosphere, isn't it?
Yes.
So he wanted to know about this.
People.
And what's that?
A lot of hungry people.
Yeah, exactly. Don't do that unless it's lunchtime, right?
Yeah.
So, he wanted to know how this, how this would be done, and it's a pretty obscure topic. There's not a lot out there about this, but he wanted to know about it, and so we were just having this casual conversation over lunch. So after I left this lunch meeting with him, I got on the line with my virtual assistant, and I said, her name was Jen, and I said, Jen, I want you to spend 2 hours on a research project on aroma marketing. Find out everything you can, shoot me the reports, and again, spend 2 hours on it. So she did this, shot me a great, full-color, nice, beautiful report via email, and I just looked at it really quick to make sure I liked the quality. I was happy with it. I sent it to this potential client. He loved it, and loved it so much that he literally immediately became a client, and just was huge. And what did it cost me? It cost me 2 hours of my virtual assistant's time. It was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't do any of that research. So we have a lot of real estate investors that use virtual assistants to research like foreclosures and people whose homes are in distress and that type of thing as well, and just all kinds of stuff. So here's some more things. Data entry, managing your CRM or your client relationship database, checking and handling your emails and voicemails. Now I want to talk about this one. This is huge. This is very near and dear to my heart. Tom, how many hours do you think the average person spends on emails and voicemails every day?
Let me say 3 hours.
You are exactly correct. The actual average is right at 3 hours. And we did not, by the way, folks, we did not coordinate this conversation ahead of time. But that's actually right, Tom.
So
the research shows 3 hours. Well, think about this. You can break your emails and your voicemails into 3 different categories, right? You've got the top third are ones that you and only you need to be dealing with. Nobody else could possibly handle. They're personal, or they require a high level of engagement on your part. Then you've got the bottom level, which is the bottom 1/3, which is all the junk mail, the stuff that needs to just be deleted. And then you've got this middle third that is stuff that a well-trained virtual assistant can handle for you. So think about that. Literally, you could eliminate 2/3 of all your emails and voicemails by having a virtual assistant, well-trained, handle those. And so now you could literally save 2 hours every single day.
Yeah.
Now, that's a big deal. I mean, I don't know about you, but if all a virtual assistant can do for you is save you 2 hours every day so that you can spend that 2 hours doing lead generation or lead follow-up or lead conversion, how much more money would you be making? Or maybe you're going to have them save you the 2 hours and you're going to go spend the 2 hours spending time with your family. Well, hallelujah, that's a victory too. 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, that's 10 hours a day. That's more than a full day of work that you can eliminate by having a virtual assistant handling these things for you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just...
It's amazing that
ahead,
people spend a third of their day, literally a third of their day on email and voicemail. I was actually guessing that and trying to go a little high.
You were right on, actually, but you're right. I mean, and people do. They spend literally a third or more of their day handling emails and voicemails, most of which could easily be handled by a virtual assistant. And it's tragic because you think about the amount of time we waste sitting there when really what should you be doing? Spend your day talking to your clients. That's really what you want to do. Spend your day talking to your clients, taking care of their needs, and helping them at a much higher level. Don't waste your time on emails and voicemails. Yep. All right, managing your calendar. This one's huge. My calendar is literally booked out on webinars and seminars and those types of things. I'm booked out easily 4 to 6 months in advance. On my phone calls with clients, I'm booked out 2 weeks in advance almost all the time. This is huge, and by managing your schedule in that way, you accomplish greater efficiency, and you can now plan. And by the way, I hope that you're doing this, and I know you guys are coaching your clients on this as well, but please plan your free time first. If your family truly is what's most important to you, plan time with them way in advance. Plan those days off a year in advance so that nothing else can come in between you and spending that time with your family. Because I don't know about you, I've got a 10 and 11-year-old, and I figured it out a while ago. I get a very limited amount of time with them, and I want to manage that time very carefully so that I can spend as much of it with them as possible.
Yeah.
Booking your flights, your hotels, all that kind of stuff, all your travel arrangements. I don't know about you, but I don't prefer to make those arrangements myself. Calling you every morning and programming your brain for success. You know, how great would it be, instead of waking up in the morning to, hey, honey, don't forget to take the garbage out, how great would it be to wake up to, hey, you are the best, Tom. Tom, you are going to crush it today. You know, this is going to be the best day ever in your life. Go have a great day. You know, I mean, you think about it, and let me tell you, the funny thing is, most of the virtual assistants we hire, they'll Skype their client every morning, and they'll say, "Hey, how are you?" And they have that attitude that you want to smile when you hear from them. You know, they're very excited to be working for you. So let me throw a few more out there: chief financial officer, project director, transcriptionist, graphics designers. Teaching your kids to play an instrument. This one's huge. You know, instead of driving a half hour to teach your kid, to take your kid to a piano lesson, it's waiting the half hour while they take the lesson and then driving a half hour back home after spending all the money and all that stuff. Why not have a classical pianist from Budapest teach them how to play over Skype? And instead of spending all that travel time and all that money, you're spending less money. Your child gets to do it from the safety of your own home. You can focus on work while they're doing that, or whatever it is you want to focus on, so that when they're done, you can go spend that extra hour doing something fun together. I don't know, just an idea.
That's great.
It's crazy when you really start thinking about it, isn't it? How many different things VAs can do.
It's fun too. You know, you really start thinking of if people started creating that list of activities that they want to do more efficiently, or things they want to get rid of, or just anything. And time, that's the one thing, is that you can never get time back. So if you can have somebody save you time, just that one, teaching your kids to play an instrument. I mean, that would be so cool to be, getting your kids guitar lessons or piano lessons or whatever from a virtual location, so that you, like you said, you're not having to drive anywhere. You don't have to worry about traffic. You don't have to worry about, are you going to get off work in time? It's taken care of. I think that's fantastic. And the safety of your own home. I mean, I think that can't be stressed enough.
You could do the same thing with learning a language. Maybe you want your kids to learn German or Spanish or whatever it is. Well, why have them learn from somebody for whom that's a second language? Why not let them learn it from somebody for whom that's their first language?
Yeah.
I mean, it just makes sense. Anyway, creating those full motion animated videos, there's just all kinds of stuff. So ask yourself, what would you use a VA for? I've seen lots of great ideas in the comments here, and we'll get some of those in just a minute. I want to keep moving through our stuff here real quick, though, so that I can get as much of this content to you as possible. The truth about VAs are that many of them do speak perfect English. Not all are from the Philippines or India. Like I said before, I've hired people from all over the world: Central America, South America, Europe, England, you name it, South Africa. A lot of times they require less management than local staff too, and let me tell you one of the reasons why. We use a time tracking software, and we'll set you up on this too. If you're a client of ours, we'll get you set up on this time tracking software we use. And what it does is, the VA, they have to log in every morning, and if they step away from their computer for more than 3 minutes, it automatically times them out, and they have to log back in. It also takes screenshots of their computer every 9 minutes, so that if you see a screenshot that you don't like, you hit delete on it, it automatically deducts 9 minutes from their day. Also, it will tell you, it'll send you a report if it thinks that they've been on a website they shouldn't be, like Facebook or HannahMontana.com or whatever it happens to be. And I know I'm guilty of that one, right? I spend a lot of time on that. I'm kidding, of course. But it will send you this report telling you this. It'll also send you a report if they were supposed to show up at 9 o'clock and they showed up at 9:10, or if they were supposed to work an 8-hour day and they worked 6 hours that day. It'll tell you all this automatically. In fact, when you're a client of ours, it will also tell my team what's going on, so that even if you're not paying really close attention to those details, guess what? We are. And if we notice that they've not shown up on time, or that they're not putting the hours in that they're supposed to be putting in, guess what? We will contact them, we will reach out to them, and we will help manage that for you, so that you're getting the very, very, very most value for your money possible. Huge. I tell you what, I wish I had that kind of accountability with my local staff. I never did. And it wasn't until I went virtual that I was able to accomplish that level of efficiency with my team. So The work quality is also often superior to local staff. And one of the reasons for that is because you can search for people globally. You now have a global marketplace, and you can search for people that are uniquely talented at whatever it is that you need done, rather than just having to take the best solution that you can find in your little local neighborhood or town. Huge stuff. All right, let me just jump in there real quick. And by the way, before I jump into this piece, for those of you that already know, hey, I want to take advantage of this free trial that Tom is offering for a 1 free week of virtual assistant time. That's up to 40 hours, folks, if you're going to be using a full-time VA, for example, that you can just test them out without having to pay anything, without any obligation. And it's to get to that, you just go to va.tombufordmarketing.com. I'll give that to you again. It's va.tombufordmarketing.com. And just go there, fill out the form, and we'll certainly get you set up with your free trial. While you're doing that, I want to ask you this. And Tom, maybe I'll just ask you, have you ever felt like, and maybe if you want to remain a little bit honest on this, have you or someone you known ever felt like you were married to your phone or your email?
Oh, yeah. I'll admit it. One of the biggest kind of epiphanies for me is when a couple years ago I was getting, this business going and cranked up, and I went on an event. So I was out of town, and I did not have access to the internet while I was there. I didn't have my laptop with me. And I got back, and I noticed how many emails that I received. And if I'd been home, I was looking at it and saying, okay, I would have opened the majority of these emails. But now that it's a week after the fact, I'm just deleting them. I mean, I pulled out anything that was really critical, and it was probably, I don't know, out of, I think there were 400 emails, I guess, there were probably 10 that were emails that I really felt that I needed to open. Yet, had I been receiving those in little chunks, I would have opened those things. I know that I would have. Not all of them, but I know how much time I would have spent, and it was a real eye-opener for me, and that's what made me start to think that I had got to manage my email differently than what I'm doing, because it really is, it's waste. There's a lot of time wasted. Not that you can eliminate it entirely. But,
oh, yeah.
So I know what you're saying.
You ever been on vacation and had your spouse or a loved one say, they kind of want to perform that cell phone ectomy, and remove?
Yeah.
I've been there.
I used to get a daily dose of it at night, because I would, before I'd get ready to go to sleep, I'd check my computer. And one day she reminded me, she's like, you realize you check your email at night, and do it in the morning. It's like, you're right. That's not the time for that. And take care of your loved ones first. So
it's true. Here's my favorite quote, I got to tell you, and this is also the #1 reason why I think everybody that is able should explore the opportunity of having a virtual assistant, and that's that no success in the world can compensate for failure in the home. And, I mean, that is just, you think about that. Write that down. This is a great quote. No success in the world can compensate for failure in the home. And I got to tell you, we talked earlier about how I took my entire office virtual. When I was able to do that, I literally took 5 weeks off. And I took, actually it was 5.5 weeks off, and took my family on a vacation of a lifetime. In fact, if anybody knows where that mountain is in the background, type that into your screen. I'm very curious as to how many of you can name what mountain that is. It'll be interesting to see if anybody gets it right, in fact. But literally, I went to 5.5 weeks, took my family to Europe. There's a little hint for you. And I didn't check my email. I didn't check my voicemail. I didn't call my office to check in. I didn't communicate with the outside world other than posting a few things on Facebook about our trip. I'd jump on and post a photo of our trip once in a while on Facebook. And by the way, feel free to connect with me there at some point as well once we get to know each other. But I got to tell you, literally took that 5.5 weeks off, didn't communicate with the office, and my business grew while I was there. Now, you think about that. I didn't think about work, and yet it grew while I was gone, and I had the best time ever with my family. And I hope that all of you will take time, and maybe it's not 5.5 weeks. Maybe for you it's a week or a weekend, or maybe it's 2 weeks. Who knows? But sometime when you get that opportunity, and I shouldn't say that, when you take that opportunity. You have to create that opportunity. Go do it and go spend some time with your family, and don't check your voicemail and don't check your email and don't even have your phone with you. Just spend the time with them and let them know how important they are to you, and I promise you it'll make the biggest difference in your world ever. I mean, absolutely just game changer for us. And Tom, I don't know if you want to mention anything on that, but wow, it was huge.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that we do in our business, we fill our day with busy work. And when you can really focus, identify the things you should be working on, it's amazing how much time you can free up and being able to take time off. And, the world isn't going to collapse. And when you have someone else that's looking at your business, making sure that, there's not an emergency that pops up, it allows you that free time so that you know that you can take off and you have that peace of mind. And why are we in business if not to have a lifestyle that we enjoy and to be able to spend time with our families? I mean, that's for me anyway, that's one of the main reasons I'm doing what I do.
Yeah, I completely agree. One of the questions that somebody brought up, by the way, I was just looking through the questions while Tom, you were going over that. One of the questions somebody had is, well, gosh, $9 an hour for a bookkeeper, that sounds like slave labor. Let me tell you, $9 an hour is a lot of money where they're from. And so our virtual assistants, we have a line of people waiting to be virtual assistants with our company. Why? Because we pay them more than they're going to make doing anything else where they're from. And we treat them well. We treat them with respect. We give them the opportunity for a long-term career, not just for, a little job here and there. I mean, it's huge. It's absolutely huge. So, all right. Well, let's keep moving forward. Tom, can I ask you a favor? Can I get you to read this testimonial from Ken Kellerman for us?
Sure thing. It says, my virtual assistant is terrific. She saves me money, does a fantastic job, and is invaluable to my business. The process of hiring through virtual assistant staffing was easy, fast, and efficient. With the free trial, I knew I had nothing to lose. I highly recommend this service. Ken Kellerman. Yeah,
Ken's been a great client for a long time. And he in fact has had his virtual assistant now for a little over a year and just gave her a raise. And let me tell you, she is invaluable to his business. And he says that in his testimonial, but he really actually means it. I mean, I don't know how this guy would function without her. He's a real estate broker. Great friend of mine, and he's one of the biggest Fannie Mae brokers in California, does a lot of auction work and all kinds of cool stuff. Well, if you're a real estate agent in Southern California and you want to communicate with Ken's office and find out how to write an offer on one of his listings or how to communicate with this, that, or there, just any question whatsoever, his virtual assistant is the one that handles every single one of those phone calls and makes sure that those agents know that they're valuable to his business. She makes sure that they're taken care of, makes sure their questions are answered, makes sure that she educates them at every turn whenever necessary so that they have the tools they need to sell his listings or to work with one of his buyers on one of their listings. And so it's just huge. I can't say this enough. You really have to step out of the box on what a virtual assistant can do. All right, and by the way, I see that we are right at an hour. And Tom, with your permission, I think we're going to go just about 5, maybe 10 minutes long. Is that okay with you?
That's fine for me. Yeah.
All right, and I want to make sure that we get all the information here. Now, for those of you that are in a rush and that need to run, those that want to take advantage of that free trial, go to va.tombufordmarketing.com. Sign up on that form that's on that page. Now, also something important to keep in mind, even if you're not ready yet, maybe now's not quite yet the right time for you to hire a VA. That's okay. Go to that page anyway. Go to va.tombufordmarketing.com and fill out the form, and let's at least get in contact with one another, and let's stay in touch. And when you are ready, whether it's now, whether it's 6 months from now, a year from now, whenever it is, let's get you taken care of. I don't want you to ever feel like that, this is one of those today only kind of things. I'm not like that. The bottom line is, we're here. We're going to be here for a long time. We appreciate our relationship with Tom. We'd like to have a similar relationship with you, and we're going to do whatever we can to make that happen and take great care of you.
Let me add something to that too.
Go ahead, Tom.
If I can, because people might not get this, and that when I first talked to you, I was looking into your services, which we're actually looking at, and one of the things, folks, that I'm having, Michael, we're going to be moving forward with is lead generation. So how do I find more promotional partners? There's so many different things that you can do if you're setting up email marketing accounts, Aweber, Infusionsoft. There are people out there that can do that for you, all the web design, all these little things, these techie things you don't want to do. audio editing, anything people can do for you. Michael can help you find these people. But it was the most non-salesy conversation I've ever had. There was no pressure at all when I talked to Michael the first time, and I was talking not about doing a call like this, but talking about the services that I was looking into the company. And then it triggered, hey, I think this is something that my folks would love and value. So I just want people to understand that if you fill out the form, it's not like you're going to be hounded day and night. Nothing like that's going to happen. You're just going to be in touch with a great company, with people that can provide an incredible resource. I don't know anybody that can do what they can do at the level that they're doing it. If you need somebody, you want to find somebody that you can hire, absolutely look into the 40 hours. And correct me if I'm wrong, but if somebody does the 40-hour trial, that doesn't mean that they have to hire somebody from that point on for 40 hours a week.
That's correct.
Do the free trial. So.
Yeah, and the way the trial works, let's talk about that just for a sec. The way the trial works is we're going to give you the first week of this person's time for free, and the purpose behind the trial is kind of twofold. One, it's to make sure that using a virtual assistant is right for you and right for your business, and it gives you a chance to really test that out. And no, there's no obligation. You don't have to continue on after your first free week. Now, the other purpose behind it is, assuming that, and ideally, you want to have the intention of using a virtual assistant long term if you're going to do this trial, but there's no obligation to. But the other purpose behind that free trial is so that you can test drive that specific virtual assistant and make sure that person is the right fit for your team long term. This is important because if you think about it, normally you don't get the chance to do that, right? Normally you hire somebody, they come into your office, you're immediately paying them when they show up, and if they turn out to be terrible, you still have to pay them for the time that they were there. Maybe it was a day, maybe it was a week, whatever, but you still end up having to pay them, right? Well, this trial's nice because you don't have to do that. If you bring somebody on, and think of it like almost like a working interview, right? They come on board, and if you decide you don't like them, all you got to do is shoot me an email, give me a phone call, say, hey, Michael, this particular person, not a great fit for me. Let's get rid of them and get somebody different. No problem. And as long as you do that in the first week, you don't owe us anything. And you can choose to continue and get a different VA, or you can choose not to continue. Maybe you continue with that VA. You have tons of options at that point. But the real key is you're in control, and you truly do get to test drive this with no further obligation long term.
Yeah. And I'd recommend that people look at this as a long-term idea. Look at finding what are these activities that you're doing ongoing that aren't adding dollars to your, ultimately they are, but you could pay someone to do some of these things and spend your time better. And how can you do that? And that's how you want to use this. So, because I don't want to also have people think, oh, that's great, I'm going to, hire a VA for a couple hours and then I'm just not going to talk to Michael again. The idea is that you're going to find someone, you're going to realize after you've used this person that, wow, what have you been doing until you met this person? Because if there really is that feeling when you hire somebody and they're taking over some of this work for you, that like, wow, why didn't I do this sooner? And that's the biggest feeling that I had.
Yeah, and I agree, Tom. I appreciate you putting it that way. You've really hit the nail on the head. If your intention is, oh, I'm just going to use 10 or 20 or 30 hours in that first week and then never use a VA again, we're probably not the best fit for you. It's really the goal here is if your thought process and if your goal is that you want to bring somebody on your team that's going to really help you and help you grow your business, help take you to the next level, then hey, let's let you test drive that person for free. Let's do this test drive so that you can make sure that it's the right fit. And if it is, awesome. And if it's not, that's okay. You don't owe us anything at that point. But anyway, that's great stuff, Tom. I appreciate that. All right, so let's talk about when should I hire a VA? When you're ready for growth, when you experience attrition. Maybe you feel overwhelmed or need to save money. Maybe you're just ready to take your business to the next level, but most importantly, when you can afford one. Now, I say this because, while VAs come at all different price points, you can get them for as low as $7 an hour. Maybe they, if you wanted really, really high-level web development and, somebody that could program, the newest Facebook or the newest Craigslist or whatever, somebody that's really, the be-all, end-all of web development, you might pay as much as $25 an hour, which is still a huge savings over U.S. If you hired that same person in the U.S., they'd be $150. But at the end of the day, you really need to think about how much can I afford? And a good rule of thumb when you're bringing somebody onto your team on a long-term basis you want to plan on being able to afford at least about $500 a month. If you can afford at least about $500 a month, you're probably in a good spot for hiring a VA long term. If not, that doesn't mean that there's not still options available to you for under $500 a month. Frankly, you probably want to hit that threshold. But if you're not at that point yet, don't worry. Still go to va.tombufordmarketing.com and fill out that form and engage with us, and we will at least get connected with you. And when you are ready, we'll help you out. Very important stuff. All right, so how do you find the right VA? I'm going to talk to you first about how you can do it on your own without having to use a headhunting firm like ours. And that was what we call the do-it-yourself method. You can go to Craigslist, and before you laugh, Craigslist is actually a good resource for finding VAs. There's Elance, there's Fiverr.com, there's Odesk, there's Guru, there's Monster, there's job boards. Another one is 99designs.com. There's all kinds of great websites out there for finding VAs. The hard part is not finding the right finding a person that can do these things. The hardest part is finding the right person. And so you can go to these different resources and you can look at them and find different people on these resources. But what I want you to really focus on is the process for interviewing and vetting these people. And so I'm going to walk you through kind of how we do that, so that even if you decide to do it on your own, you can go through a similar process. And this is what happens when you hire a headhunter like us. Obviously we guarantee the results. We give you that free test drive. And here is that proven system for finding, vetting, and hiring. Here's what I recommend. You want to look at, and if we're doing it for you, then we just do this. And all those numbers, by the way, that I've been giving you, the $9 an hour for bookkeepers and all that kind of stuff, those numbers already include my fee. So I'm built into that rate already. So it doesn't cost you anything above and beyond that to have us do this for you. We'll just do it. But here's the process we go through. So we look at, for each position, we'll look at between 300 and 400 resumes on the low end. Out of those, we will do 30 to 40 voice-to-voice interviews. And this is usually done over Skype. From there, we test them. So we'll put them through a skills test, English test, we do typing tests, we do internet connection speed tests, and we do something called a DISC personality profile. This is very important because we want to make sure we're placing the right personality type in the right position. And so there's some variables there that we work with. We have, so once we've gone through that process, we take the top people that come out of testing and we put them through another round of interviews with an executive level member of our team. And if and only if we feel like we've got the right person for the job, will we make that placement. And sometimes we go through that process 2, 3, 4 times before we get to the person that we really feel is the right person for that position. I got to say this. Never shortchange the hiring process. It's very important you go through this process each and every time. Whether you're going to do it on your own or have us do it, it's important that the process happen so that you're getting to the right person for the job. Nothing is worse than bringing the wrong person on your team. You got to make sure you're getting the right people on your team, because the wrong ones will suck up time, effort, and energy, not to mention the money on your part. So, all right. Another thing that we offer is the flexible plans. This is important. You don't have to use 40 hours a week. It could be 20, 30, 10 hours a week. It could be as little as 2.5 hours a week. And then, of course, we'll take care of all your payroll, your taxes, all that kind of stuff. And we act kind of as your virtual HR department. So we take care of any issues that come up with you and your VA and those kinds of things as well. All right, so let's go through this one last time here. We're going to give you that 1-week gift. You're going to go sign up on the webpage at va.tombufordmarketing.com. You'll get a call from one of my VAs. We're going to dig deep into your needs. We'll shoot you our standard agreement that guarantees that we're going to keep all your information confidential, and it shows you that you can cancel at any time with or without cause, so that there's no obligation long-term on your part. Then we're going to go out and we're going to search the world for your perfect virtual assistant. This process usually takes about 2 weeks. You get to test drive that VA, and when you love them, keep them, and we'll just begin billing you at the end of that first 1-week trial period. We'll bill you for the following 2 weeks at that point, and if you don't love them, let us know, and we'll replace them for free. Or if you just decide that, hey, I just don't want to have a VA, that's all right too. You can cancel at that point, and no further obligation on your part. Now, I'm going to run through here Again, we're running a little short on time, so I want to get to the point where we can do some questions and answers. Before I do, I want to tell you, I want you guys to look at this slide really quick here. I want you to think about training. Training is very important. We're going to bring you people that have the skill sets you're looking for. No matter what I bring you, or no matter, and whether you do this on your own or you have us do it for you, no matter what, when you bring somebody on your team, training is the most important thing you can do with that person on a daily basis. They're going to come to you knowing how to do certain things, true, but you still got to teach them how you want things done. And the more you train them, the more you'll have a team of ninjas on your behalf going out there and crushing it for you. So take the time, even if it's only 10 or 15 minutes a day in the form of a daily huddle or something like that, take that time, teach them something every day so that they get better and better and better at what they do. All right, so let's run right into it now to our questions and answers. So if you want to, while we're doing the Q&A, if you want to go to va.tombufordmarketing.com, again, that's va.tombufordmarketing.com. And while you're going there, I'm going to jump to Q&A. And Tom, did you want to jump in on anything while we're doing that?
No, I just want to encourage people, if you do sign up and you want some support, go ahead and let me know that you signed up through Michael, and if there's anything I can do to help kind of pinpoint what, ways to use a VA, be sure to let me know. I think Michael's team will do a better job at that than I can, but, really just take out that pen and paper, start writing down the things that you don't want to tackle anymore, some things that have been, maybe some things that you haven't addressed because you're afraid to tackle them, and see, contact Michael, get signed up, and just see if that's something that they can take care of for you. And just, I'm telling you, once you hire a VA, you're going to ask yourself why you didn't do it sooner, and it's just a huge relief.
Fantastic. Yep. Now, for some of you have mentioned, how do I see one participant here asked the question, how do I become a VA? Go ahead and go to that same link and just get connected with us at va.tombufordmarketing.com, and we will go ahead and make sure that you're given the right information so that you can make an application to be a VA. I'm going to warn you ahead of time, we put you through a pretty rigorous process. And I don't want you to be turned off by that process. I just want you to know that it is very difficult to get hired with us as a virtual assistant, but assuming that you are fantastic at what you do and that you're loyal and that you're honest and work with integrity and are willing to work hard and show up every day, and then there's a good chance that you could get placed with one of our clients. And of course our assumption at that point is that you're going to take great care of them, and we want to make sure that that's happening. So let's see. So if I decide to keep the VA for 2.5 hours a week after the trial, at what rate do I get billed? And this is a question from Shanti. And the answer, Shanti, is it really depends on what type of VA you're hiring. It could be all kinds of different types of VAs. It could be anywhere from a bookkeeper to a telemarketer to whatever. And so really the best thing to do when we do that phone call with you after you fill out the form, we're gonna go through an analysis of exactly what you're looking at and what that person will cost. The short answer to your question is the cost could be anywhere from, like I said, $7 an hour to, generally speaking, most VAs are going to run between $7 and $15 an hour. Probably the average is between 9 and 11 for really good VAs. But it's really going to come down to what you're looking for. So very good question. Thank you for that. And how many people might a VA work for at the same time? What is the maximum in your system? This is a question from Dallas. That's a great question, Dallas. And it really depends on how many hours a week the client is looking for. We never allow a particular VA to work for more than 3 clients at the same time. So in other words, if you wanted a VA for 2.5 hours, and then we would take that VA and we would try and find them another full-time client so that, instead of working a 40-hour week, maybe they're working a 42.5-hour week. But if you want somebody for 20 hours, I would find someone that wants that same VA or whose needs match that VA's skill set at 20 hours a week, so they would have you and one other client. If you're using a VA 40 hours a week, more often than not, that's going to be the only client that VA is going to be working for. So we really try and minimize the number of people they're working for a boatload of reasons. Yeah, very good question. How can I plan for my VA's vacation, sickness, etc.? Do you provide any cover for this situation? That's a great question, Bernie, and thank you for that. And the short answer is paid. There is no paid vacation time when it comes to virtual assistants, unlike in America where you would pay for 2 weeks or whatever, you know, sometimes as much as 8 weeks a year of paid time off. That's not the case when you hire virtual assistants. They are paid for the days they work and only for the days they work, and for the hours they work. And so what happens is, let's say you've got a commitment with your VA that you're going to employ them for 20 hours a week, and they're sick one day. Well, all right, if they're sick that day, not a problem. As long as you and they have talked about it ahead of time, then they can make up that time during the same week. So they'll actually make up those hours so that at the end of their week, they've got to hit that 20 hours. Now, one of the things we're very, very particular about with our company is we want to make sure that our VAs are not only accountable, but they're reliable and responsible every single day. Attendance is very, very important to us. And so we make it very clear to them that it's not okay to just not show up one day. You have to be there on time every day. And we monitor this. And if they drop the ball like that with one of our clients, they will get blacklisted from our system, and we will not place them with further clients. And they know that, and they don't want to mess that up, because working with us is a pretty good gig for these VAs, and they want to make sure they keep that opportunity. All right, great questions. Gosh, I see a ton. I'm trying to get to all of them, and I see there's a lot of questions coming in here, so hang tight as I go through these. All right, so can a VA, hold on, let's see here. Let me scroll back down to the bottom. How does your company guarantee confidentiality and privacy with our company's information being shared across the world? That's from Kay. Kay, that is a fantastic question, and we are very, very, we have a very, very strict contract that we sign with every single virtual assistant, and part of the agreement, remember I mentioned that agreement that we'll send you when it comes time for you to take advantage of that free trial. Part of that agreement is a confidentiality agreement, and so you are protected in writing from a legal standpoint from any abuse of confidentiality or privacy. And I will tell you that I have never, not one time, have I ever experienced a challenge with any confidentiality issues or privacy issues relating to any virtual assistant. Part of it you've got to keep in mind is it's a long process for a VA to get hired with us. They go through a tremendous amount of effort to get hired with us, and so it really discourages those fly-by-night type of people that you would have those kinds of concerns with to begin with. But that, combined with our ironclad paperwork that we use, you know, our agreements that we use, really make a difference on that. So from a confidentiality and privacy standpoint, you're covered. All right, great stuff. What are the provisions for taxes, 1099 versus employee parameters? This is a question from Cameron. Cameron, that's a fantastic question. And ultimately, here's what you need to know. If we're hiring someone in the U.S. for you, we are going to pay them as a W-2 employee, period. And the reason is there's a litmus test. It's a 22-point litmus test, and there is an overwhelming chance that no matter what you're using someone for, you're going to trigger the W-2 portion of that 22-point litmus test that the IRS puts out. And so for our purposes, everybody we hire in the U.S. we pay on a W-2. It's just not worth it. There's too many penalties, and there's too many legal ramifications if you pay someone on a 1099 and they should have been paid on a W-2. It's definitely not something you want to mess with. You want to make sure you're crossing your T's and dotting your I's on that. Now, again, when you're hiring through us, we take care of all of that for you, so you don't have to worry about it. And the numbers that I'm quoting you include all of that already. So, great question. Tom, wanted to give you a chance to jump in if you had anything you wanted to jump in on real quick before I go to our last. I've got a bunch more questions, but I'll take one more before we wrap up. I don't want to keep everybody too long.
No, you go ahead, man. This is great, so I'm glad you're getting to everyone's questions.
All right, fantastic, fantastic. Okay, so let's see. Do you do by the job? Hang on one second. Do you do by the job? Oh, I just lost the question. There it is. Do you do by the job rather than on a monthly basis? Ergo, web design, research, etc. And that's a question from Kim. Kim, that's a fantastic question. And yes, We do offer project-based work as well, and that would be quoted on an individual project basis. Again, as we discussed, the rates are a little bit higher when you're hiring on a project basis than when you hire someone on an ongoing basis, because, put yourself in that VA's shoes. They want to know they've got ongoing work. And so that being said, yes, we can absolutely do things for you on a project basis, and we do that all the time. So fantastic questions, everybody. And I'll tell you this, we haven't had a chance to get to everybody's questions, and so for those of you whose questions did not get addressed, and those of you that want to take advantage of that free trial, go to va.tombufordmarketing.com. Again, that's va.tombufordmarketing.com, and fill out the form on that page. You'll get a phone call from one of my assistants who will set up a time for you to speak with either myself, and yes, many of you will actually get to speak with me as well, and which I look forward to. I really want to speak with you. I'd love to speak with all of you if possible, but some of you will get a chance to speak with one of my relationship managers. All three of us will do a great job helping answer any questions that you have. Also, you're going to get my email address. At some point, you're going to get an email from me, and it's literally my email address. And now, granted, my virtual assistant does check my emails, just as we talked about on the webinar, but we're going to make sure that when you email me directly, you're going to get the right answer to your question, and anything my VA cannot answer for you, she's going to have me personally answer for you. So we're going to make sure you're taken care of. So again, va.tombufordmarketing.com, and thank you all so very much for having me here today. And with that, Tom, I'll turn it back over to you.
I just want to thank you, Michael, and I want to thank everyone for being here. And, I really do encourage you guys to go through the process. You'll actually see kind of how he's using a VA as well in the scheduling process, and to start thinking of the things that you want to eliminate in your business. Not eliminate, but you want to pass on to somebody else. Helping out with your email campaigns, helping out with client attraction, lead generation. Can you hire somebody? Imagine if you hired somebody and you spent $500 a month, and all they were doing was looking for leads for your private coaching or your practice. And what if you brought in $2,000 a month in extra income because of that? I mean, talk about an incredible return on your investment. And of course, you would know pretty quickly if it's not working. So I think it's just kind of, just come up with the activities that you want somebody else to take care of, and go to va.tombufordmarketing.com and fill out the form, and just take it from there. And I think, I know that you're going to be really excited when you just start moving that direction. So I want to thank you, Michael, for being here, and again, thank everyone for being here this afternoon. And that's it. So everyone go out and have a great day, and make the best of it, and utilize this resource. It's something that people certainly want and need for their businesses. So
fantastic. And remember, by the way, Tom, I had a couple of people say that they went to va.tombuford.com, and it's actually va.tombufordmarketing.com. So make sure you go to va.tombufordmarketing.com.
Correct. That's it. All right. If anybody has any trouble, just shoot me an email too. But va.tombufordmarketing.com should get you right to that form.
Sounds great.
Right. Thanks again, Michael, man. I really do appreciate your time, and thanks for your expertise, and thanks for putting this resource together. This has just been such an incredible service that you guys have that you're offering, because it really is great that you guys are going through that vetting process so that people don't have to go through that really expensive and trying experience of trying to hire the right VA and finding that they didn't hire the right person. They don't know where to start. And you're taking all of that scary stuff out of the conversation for people. So I appreciate what you guys have put together too.
Absolutely. All right. Well, fantastic. Well, thanks for having me.
You got it. All right, everybody. Have a great rest of the week. This is Tom Buford of TomBufordMarketing.com with Michael Hellickson of Virtual Assistant Staffing, and I look forward to talking to you guys very soon. Bye-bye, everybody.